Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. What is going on with Liam McNeeley, the five-star McDonald's All-American? So let's go ahead and dive in. Liam McNeeley, five-star McDonald's All-American. Very interesting story. Was committed to Indiana to start the process, okay? Committed to Indiana last summer, seemed like an Indiana commit. Then it went sideways at Indiana. He ends up decommitting sometime late February, early March, something like that. McDonald's All-American, plays at Montverde. It's worth noting, by the way, for people who don't know, 6'8", elite three-point shooter. Decommits from Indiana. The first inclination, because we talked about it at the time, it felt like he was probably going to end up at Kansas. Kansas was the number 2 choice. Johnny Furphy at that point was blowing up. It felt like he's going pro. They need somebody to replace him at that, kind of that stretch 4 spot, 3 spot, whatever. Well, I bring it up because over time, it does not appear as though Kansas is any longer in the mix. Kansas obviously took A.J. Storr today. They're kind of set at that spot. And so this feels like a truly open recruitment, but it feels like a recruitment that is starting to come to an end. Liam McNeeley has one official visit set up, although it's worth noting that he could visit other schools, and I quickly want to just break down and discuss his decision. So first of all, the one school that he is visiting, it is the 2-time defending national champion UConn Huskies. And so if I had to, handicap right now his recruitment and his decision, I do think UConn has to be considered the favorite because as of right now, at least as we started recording at 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday night, they were the only school that is getting a visit from Liam McNeeley. And so I think it makes a lot of sense on all fronts. One, Dan Hurley has very clearly, over the last couple of years, prioritized size, athleticism, but also the ability to put the ball in the basket. We've talked about it a million times, but Dan Hurley, after UConn lost in the 2022 NCAA tournament, they were a 5 seed. They lost to New Mexico State and Chris Jans. He kind of put himself in a bunker and said, listen, we can't keep trying to win every game in a rock fight 65-62. We need to prioritize offense. They went and got Tristan Newton that offseason. They got, whoever. Cam Spencer this past offseason, and the priority has been on offense. Well, Liam McNeeley fits that bill. As I said, I think the stat is in AAU last summer, in games in which they track 3-point shooting, I think he shot over 50% from 3. So that is an insane stat. And the bottom line is with UConn, they need dudes right now, okay? 4 of their 5 are projected to leave, and the 5th one just declared. So Tristan Newton is out of eligibility. Cam Spencer is out of eligibility. Donovan Clingan has already declared for the draft. Also, Steph Castle, freshman, stud, top 10 pick, has not declared yet, but we assume that he will. And then it was also worth noting that on Thursday afternoon, Alex Karaban, the 5th starter, announced that he is going to test the NBA draft waters. Now, I don't think he is going to leave college basketball. If we talked about it on Monday's show, at UConn's parade on Saturday afternoon, last Saturday, Alex Karaban was asked about his future. He said, look, I'm a year away from graduating. I would love to come back, put on this uniform, and go for a three-peat. And so I think Alex Karaban will probably go through the process, get some feedback, and end up back at Kentucky. Got all these schools mixed up in my brain here. Back at UConn for another season. But nothing's guaranteed. And even if he comes back, there are plenty of spots and plenty of available playing time at Kentucky, at UConn. I don't know why I keep doing that. At UConn. UConn fans, forgive me. I've been talking so much Kentucky and Mark Pope and this and that, whatever. So I just bring it up because there is so much playing time at UConn. 4 starters are probably gone. A 5th starter is declared for the NBA draft. You look at who's coming back. Hassan Diarra hasn't officially announced. We assume he's back. Samson Johnson hasn't announced. We assume he's back. Terrace Reed, you just got a commitment from him. But outside of those guys, who else do you have? Ahmad Noel is a freshman, really good, but I don't know that he's a guy that you put in there for 28, 29, 30 minutes a game as a freshman. Same with Jalen Stewart, an emerging star. You need talent. You need guys that can put the ball in the basket, and Liam McNeeley can do that. So UConn, to me, is the favorite and should be perceived as the favorite. But listen, I don't think it's a done deal. There are obviously, it'll be interesting. You see stuff, you don't know what's the truth, but the reports are that, listen, I think NIL is going to be a factor. And, Dan Hurley has been very vocal about NIL. We have NIL, we use NIL, but we always want to make sure our players are taken care of. But if it comes down to bidding wars, that's just not how we operate at the University of Connecticut. So I think Liam McNeeley is probably, in my opinion, has to be deemed a UConn favorite, but there are other people coming. First of all, John Calipari was at Montverde just the last couple days to see Liam McNeeley. The thought was, even as soon as Liam McNeeley decommitted, he became a priority for John Calipari, even when John Calipari was at Kentucky. They had 6 freshmen coming in, and Calipari was like, I don't care. I want that kid. And so Calipari, you think that he would be in the mix? I also think, bluntly, I think that Kentucky with Mark Pope is going to be in the mix as well. We got the report that they had a Zoom meeting on Wednesday. We know that Mark Pope is on the road recruiting here on Thursday. And my guess is that it's going to be a priority for Mark Pope to try to land this kid. And I'd be curious if it ends up working out. One, just talking to people in the recruiting world, I do think the brand of Kentucky means something to Liam McNeeley. I think he understands the value of going to one of those big major programs, was committed to Indiana, almost committed to Kentucky. Obviously, UConn's in the mix. And so I think he kind of is intrigued by Kentucky. Again, I'll say what I said a minute ago with AJ Storr. I don't think that anybody at this point is taking any phone calls if they're not serious about a given school. And so I bring it up because when I look at Liam McNeeley, I think Mark Pope has a hell of a recruiting pitch, because just like UConn, just like Arkansas, there is plenty of playing time to be had at the University of Kentucky. And I think Liam McNeeley fits the system. And I think especially now that Reed Sheppard is gone, I think that you can really sell like, hey, wait a second now. You can come in and essentially be the face of this thing. Now, there's no, we don't know what the Kentucky roster is going to look like under Mark Pope. But at the same time, you need a star. You need a freshman. You can kind of be that new era guy that kind of is like, hey, 5 stars still want to come to Kentucky post Calipari. And so it would be an interesting sales pitch for Mark Pope. You fit our system. You fit what we're trying to do. Obviously, at Kentucky, NIL is not an issue. As we said a minute ago, the day that Mark Pope was hired, $4 million was donated to the basketball collective. So money is not going to be an issue there. Do think Arkansas is going to have plenty to offer as well. Come here, be a star. This is the next NBA factory. You have a chance to do something special here. You have a chance to start something special here as well. And by the way, the one thing I'll say about Arkansas that I think has been undersold, and we talked about Eric Musselman, he proved you can come there as a McDonald's All-American and be a superstar. Anthony Black was a top 10 pick literally 1 year ago out of the state of Texas, by the way. Jordan Walsh was a draft pick out of the state of Texas. Those were McDonald's All-Americans. And so to me, those 3 have to be deemed the front runners. Now, there's been reports that Michigan is trying to get in the mix with the new coach, Dusty May. We'll see about him. I'm just not sold that he's going to be able to recruit at the level that he needs to. Like, I think if you're getting into a recruiting war with Dan Hurley and John Calipari and even Mark Pope in Kentucky, I think that's a tough one. I also think Nate Oates, there's been reports that Nate Oates and Alabama are trying to get into the mix as well. But to me, this feels like UConn's the leader. That is the only visit as of right now. Credit Mark Pope, he's fighting. Credit John Calipari, he is fighting in Arkansas. And we will see what happens from there.